can show dynamics and dynamic changes using our right hand, using our left hand, and using the package of facial expression and body posture, and these three elements in combination too. If we use our right hand, generally speaking, the larger the pattern, the more sound we're looking to create. And the smaller the pattern, the less sound. And a crescendo would be from a small pattern, moving gradually towards a large pattern. And a decrescendo would be moving from a large pattern gradually towards a small pattern. There are some exceptions to this. We can be conducting pretty large gestures, but this could still convey something soft and usually flowing. And the reason this is effective, even though I'm pretty big here with the pattern, is that most of these beats are very passive. There's not a lot of bounce on them, not a lot of ictus, and also there's not a lot of sense of weight going between beats. It's floating through time. Even if it's a lot of time, it's a large space. Once we add either some weight to it or tension in a good way, as if we're pulling the baton through some thick air and we have to work a little harder to do it. Once we do something like that, or once we create some more ictus and some more bounce and articulation, then the size more clearly transmits volume, dynamic, forte. But if we take that away and it's just a passive floating through time, the size can convey soft. And the reverse is true too. Just because the pattern is small doesn't mean that the music is soft. This is especially true for certain sections of marches or pieces that at one point get into a groove and it's almost a self-sustaining groove. And if we try to imitate that, and we just get in the way, as if this bicycle is moving beautifully along and then we stick something in the spokes and it creates all this problem. Just let the group create the energy and we're just clear. But generally speaking, a small pattern is piano and a large pattern is forte. Left hand to show these elements. If we have left hand positions and we have statue left hand conducting and we have some independence, we can use all three. Our basic left hand sustained gesture can be used to show forte or more forte or to reinforce a crescendo. So if our right hand is doing something and our left and we want a crescendo or get some more sound, our right hand just comes up to reinforce that. More sound. A little less sound, a little more sound. And whenever possible, we want to reinforce that at the same time with our right hand. We don't want, all things being equal, for this to be small and then all of a sudden we're giving some conflicting information. But if we're conducting along, this is now reinforcing what the right hand is doing, and all it is doing is just a statue, making a statue of forte and then conducting at the same time. We can find different statue poses. So another forte might be that. Still a left hand sustained gesture, just a slightly different position. It might be piano, might be the flipped over left hand position, so the statue might be this. It might be this. It might be that. Who knows? You have to audition these in front of the mirror and find what works. But really, I'm not moving my left hand. For the most part, I'm just keeping it still and reinforcing what I'm doing with the right. We can find some other we can get some true independence out of our left hand. And to practice this at first, I'd recommend putting the baton down, and just to get the sense of the gesture, the shape of it, is imagine you're holding a small to medium-sized beach ball. And so it's something round, and then the beach ball gradually gets larger. And as it gets larger, you're still holding it, and your hands and arms are going to expand outward until eventually you're holding a very big beach ball. It may not be heavy, but it's got a large diameter to it, and you're holding it. Well, and then let's say it starts to contract again, and it becomes a smaller beach ball, but you're still holding it. That is a good way to approximate some left hand motion for crescendo, decrescendo. So if we drop the right hand and then we just do that same gesture with our left hand, that's a good start for crescendo, decrescendo. It's a combination of two different axes. It's up and it's out. Independently, they don't work. This doesn't really show crescendo, and this kind of shows crescendo, but it doesn't seem strong, because if something had a lot of air, a beach ball is light. But if we want to seem like we're holding something substantial, this doesn't convey that very well. Whereas a combination of out and up does. And you can experiment on the true on your own path, and the path might change. For the decrescendo, we can flip the left hand around and use the same path on the way back, just with a flipped over palm. So it's not just down, or it's not just in, it's down and in. And again, you can experiment with different versions of that. And then it's a matter of combining it with the right hand. At first, you may stop, while you're conducting, you may stop conducting with your right hand and just do the gesture, especially in rehearsal. So we're conducting along, crescendo, and then conduct again. Eventually we want them independent so they can both be operating. So just take some practice to coordinate your two hands. You might do it slowly at first. Expect something like this to happen, where you do it elevator style, stop and go with the pattern itself. And then as you work it out, you'll get more smooth, so you can do both at the same time, two different things, both reinforcing each other. Now, it's true that when both hands are doing this, sometimes it can be tricky to show it very clearly in the right hand. Why? Because there's something else in the airspace. We don't want to hit our left hand, and so we might have to dial back the energy in our right hand. Whereas the left hand really isn't in the picture, and we really can get a large pattern. With the left hand in the picture, well, we might have to move our right hand a little bit to the right of our body a bit, or we just need to be aware that it doesn't come too far into the center. Or we can experiment with different planes, different flight paths. So the left hand might be down here, using our sustain, and our right hand is flying above it. Or in reverse. So you can experiment with that. We still want there to be some reinforcement. We don't want this, let's say we're crescendoing and decrescendoing. We can show that a little bit. I don't think it's terribly compelling. Certainly it shows some crescendo. It's really great for showing phrasing, which is, in the sense of the phrase grows a little bit of a crescendo without being incredibly dramatic. But if we really want to make that clear, we want to reinforce it with both hands. So they're both showing the dynamic change. In terms of the left hand, we can also have them mirror, and that goes back to the size of the pattern. And again, be careful about crossing streams here or clashing in terms of the same airspace. We can either just make sure that as we come to the center in a 4 pattern to beat 2, we just don't go any further past the center, like a true mirror. Or we might use different planes again, so one flies above the other, and that, or reverse that. So we can get good size out of both. And there again, size is the analogy to volume. And then we have facial expression and body posture, which we want to reinforce all of this also. Facial expression, eye position, the intensity that we're conducting. If something is forte and we have the deer in the headlights look, it's not very compelling. But if we use a facial, the way we use our mouth, perhaps to show that more air is coming through. Some people like to clench the mouth a bit, especially if we're intense. There's no one answer to this. Find different gestural vocabulary and experiment with it. Body posture, the same thing. This does not say forte. Even if our right hand is saying forte and our left hand is saying forte, if we don't look forte, I'm exaggerating of course, but we need to feel, oh, that's forte. Maybe this is piano. Maybe that's a little less grounded, a little less athletic, a little more flowing. So we want to make sure that what we're doing that what we're doing reflects what's happening musically, using right hand, left hand, facial expression, and body posture. All right, so we've seen a few examples of how to show dynamics using our left hand and other techniques for that. This next brief video is an example of what I would say you shouldn't do, or you shouldn't do it very often at least. This is shushing in the rehearsal, when we're saying shh, when we're trying to get a softer dynamic. Maybe for dramatic effect we can use it, but if we overuse it, first of all, I think it's kind of tacky, and it also sends the message that students and the ensemble shouldn't be watching us for our gestures, they should be listening. So avoid shushing if you can. Here's an example of it.